boy, do we have some action from the winter meetings. What is up, my friends? Welcome to Flippin Bats, where Pete Alonso has officially signed with the Baltimore Orioles. He is no longer a New York Met. We will talk all about that. A lot of moves have been made since our earlier episode. Kyle Schwarber signing with the Phillies, Edwin Diaz to the Los Angeles Dodgers. We're going to talk all about them, but the big one that has just happened on Wednesday is Pete Alonso going to the Baltimore Orioles, which is, I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I think I don't claim to be a Mets fan. I'm a fan of the game of baseball, so I'm not as emotional and wrapped up about this as Mets fans have been in the last, few hours since this has happened. There's a lot of mad people. There's a lot of mad Mets fans. I get it, and I have a lot of thoughts on it. I'm excited to talk about them because it's probably a little bit different. I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority when it comes with it, but we'll see. A lot is going on across baseball, though. So I told you earlier in the week, winter meetings, things are going to happen, and I'll probably come out with another episode before the following Monday because I do imagine a lot is going to happen, and a lot is going to continue to happen. There's a lot of conversations out there. So we're going to do an episode of Flippin Bats. Remember, Flippin Bats is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make sure you check out any and everything you want to there. A lot of odds movement, by the way, for these teams. The Baltimore Orioles have gone drastically. Their odds have changed drastically to win the AL, win the World Series. Their AL odds went from plus 1,300 to plus 1,000. Their World Series odds from plus 3,000 to plus 2,200. So check that out on FanDuel Sportsbook. Pete Alonso is no longer a New York Met. Pete Alonso is now a Baltimore Oriole. This, as we sit here on December 10th, this is the worst winter in New York Mets history. The worst back-to-back days in New York Mets offseason history. Edwin Diaz, Pete Alonso gone in back-to-back days. Pete Alonso signs for 5 years, $155 million. No deferrals, the highest AAV ever for a first baseman. Pete Alonso gets that with the Orioles. Look, Pete Alonso to me just felt like a New York Met forever. He loves the New York Mets. He was supposed to be there forever. That was supposed to be his spot forever, and he was going to have a statue built outside of that stadium, and he was going to have his numbers up in the rafters. He's already the all-time home runs leader, and he was just going to continue to add on top of that. And now he's gone, and that has made a lot of Mets fans absolutely furious. You know, the Mets never even made Pete Alonso an offer. They didn't even make him an offer. It became clear to them that Alonso was getting bids for more dollars and more years than they were comfortable, so they didn't even offer him. Is this back? Is this rock bottom for the New York Mets? Back-to-back days losing Edwin Diaz and your franchise legend Pete Alonso. Is this rock bottom? I don't know. To me, so here's where I might differ, and here's where I might be in the minority. My question immediately turns to, what does Steve Cohen have up his sleeve? You have to imagine he has a plan. You know they desperately need pitching. They needed pitching last year. The conversation around the Mets has been, oh, what a massive underperformance in 2025. Was it? I think they were projected to win 88 games, and they won 83. With the pitching staff they had, I'm not so sure it was a massive underperformance. They came out of the gates like gangbusters with that pitching rotation, and then they came back down to earth. Their pitching wasn't enough last year. They didn't have enough pitching. So sure, maybe they underperformed a little bit, but they desperately need pitching. What does he do in the pitching department now? And you have to imagine now Cody Bellinger is a perfect fit there. Kyle Tucker is a perfect fit there. Do they both end up there in New York? But here's where I say I might be in the minority when it comes to the New York Mets. Everyone is furious right now. But here's how I look at the New York Mets now. Steve Cohen took over an organization in 2020 that was in desperate need of an overhaul. And what he did during the overhaul, or you can call it a rebuild, they were in desperate need of a rebuild. What he did during the rebuild was to try and win while also rebuilding. And he did rebuild, and he has rebuilt. From the 20th ranked farm system in all of Major League Baseball when he bought the New York Mets in 2020 to the number 1 ranked farm system in all of baseball, according to ESPN, as we sit here today, just 5 years later. A complete and total overhaul and rebuild of the minor league system. The winning that he tried to do during, by just spending money, didn't quite happen. He put a competitive team out there, but the winning that he tried to do during the rebuild of the organization didn't happen how he was hoping. But you can't say he didn't try. And now I feel like they've acknowledged that they want a different look and a different feel of the team. Did I envision that being Pete Alonso? To be honest with you, I didn't. I thought he was a franchise legend and cornerstone, and he was one of the guys that they would keep. But they're doing that now. Brandon Nimmo out the door. And now, with Pete Alonso getting 5 years and $155 million, the highest AAV ever for a first baseman, for an offense first, defense secondary, certainly first baseman. A guy that's not known for his glove over at first base. So an aging first baseman that isn't great defensively. They said, you know what? We are not going 5 years, and we're not going the highest AAV ever for a first baseman. So you can look at it two different ways. You can say, okay, this is an organizational guy, and it's sports, and we're losing an age where you have your one guy that's drafted by an organization and becomes a franchise legend, and we want to keep that in place. Or you can say, we don't want to give a first baseman the highest AAV ever for first baseman, doesn't play great defense, that's 31 years old. We don't want to pay that. So they didn't. So now you sit here with a team that has Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto and a ton of money freed up to spend with the richest owner in baseball that loves the New York Mets and wants to win. So I don't view this as doomsday. What does he do now is how I view this. And it better be something big, and it better be something quick, because this is a fan base that is crumbling. But Steve Cohen, as owner of the New York Mets, I know Mets fans think this is doomsday, but Steve Cohen hasn't yet done anything for me to not believe that he is pushing this organization forward. From the 20th ranked farm system to number 1 in 5 years, all while trying to win. And now this winning, this core that was Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, did not work. So they've looked in the mirror and said, okay, Lindor, under contract, priority for us. We just paid Juan Soto. Okay, Brandon Nimmo, we don't love your contract. Thank you for everything. See ya. Pete Alonso, we aren't willing to give you the highest AAV in history for a first baseman. Thank you for everything. See ya. So to me, as a non-Mets fan, a non-emotional Mets fan, I am not viewing this as doomsday for the Mets, and I view it as, oh boy, what does Steve Cohen do now with a team that has Lindor and Soto and a ton of money freed up to spend with the richest owner in baseball? What do they do now? That's where my mind goes. So I'm not saying this isn't a failure of an offseason. As we sit here right now on December 10th, this is a complete and utter failure of an offseason. Edwin Diaz and Pete Alonso in back-to-back days, and I get it. I get why Mets fans are absolutely furious. but I am able to not wrap myself up emotionally and think, oh boy, what does Steve Cohen do? Because again, you have a fan base that is crumbling and furious. So he better do something big and he better do something fast. And I think the Mets will. I really do. Do they end up with Cody Bellinger, Kyle Tucker, or the Padres are listening in on everyone to trade? Do they end up with a Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., pitching from over there, Nick Pivetta, Mason Miller? Do they get one of the big arms available on the market for pitchers? There's a lot of directions they can go, and they chose to go in a new direction with their team and with their core. And depending on what they do, I don't yet view this as doomsday. It has been a failure of an offseason, obviously, because you've lost some guys and haven't yet gotten guys. But I don't yet view this as doomsday. I really don't. Because you're not going to go out and pay Juan Soto $750 million last offseason to walk 150 times. Right now, he's got no protection in the lineup. I can't promise you, but I would almost guarantee you that they're not going to go into next season with no serviceable and proper protection of Juan Soto in that lineup. We'll see what they do. Pete Alonso leaving the New York Mets and going to the Baltimore Orioles. Let's talk about this from an Orioles perspective. The Orioles have had an interesting offseason so far, in my opinion. Let's not forget the trade of Grayson Rodriguez to acquire Taylor Ward earlier. So already you were looking there and saying, okay, interesting move. You add Taylor Ward to an already pretty underwhelming offense last year, but a good offense on the surface. You add Taylor Ward. If you were to ask me how do the Orioles get better in 2026 than 2025, I would point to Grayson Rodriguez and say he needs to come back and be that top of the rotation arm. Well, now he's gone. So now all of a sudden I have these questions of, okay, good offense, not a lot of pitching. And now they go out and add Pete Alonso. So now I say, great offense. One of the best offenses in baseball, no pitching. 5 years, $155 million for Pete Alonso. 5 homers in 10 games there for what it's worth for Pete Alonso. This move means nothing for the Orioles without pitching. I love their offense. I love the position they are in offensively. It's a fantastic move for the lineup. But now they desperately need pitching. So I look what's out there. I look what the Baltimore Orioles could possibly do, and I say they need frontline starters. The Orioles need frontline starters. Do they go out and add multiple of Framber Valdez, Ranger Suarez, Imai coming over from MPB in Japan, Michael King, a trade piece that is certainly reportedly out there and available? Do they get multiple? 2 of that. They have to. They have to. And in my opinion, they don't spend the money on Pete Alonso without doing that. So what I think we see the Orioles sign one free agent, one of Valdez, Suarez, Imai, or King, and then trade for someone. There's trade talks with that Edward Cabrera from the Marlins. If you really want to look at the top of what they could do, Mackenzie Gore is reportedly available from the Nationals, at least available in trade talks. And if there's any organization, one of a couple organizations that could possibly trade for Mackenzie Gore and have the pieces to do it, and it be the perfect fit at the perfect time, it's the Orioles. If I'm the Baltimore Orioles, after signing Pete Alonso, I go out and make one free agent pitching splash, Valdez, Suarez, Imai, or King, and I trade for Mackenzie Gore. And all of a sudden, the Baltimore Orioles are a World Series favorite in 2026. What a move for the Orioles. But to me, it doesn't mean a ton unless you go out and add the necessary pitching that they have desperately needed. They desperately needed in 2025. Then you traded away Grayson Rodriguez. You need it even more so. So this move is awesome for the Orioles and their lineup, but they desperately need pitching, and it is out there to acquire. And I think they do it. I think after seeing this move, after hearing they were in on Schwarber, they were in on Kyle Schwarber. In fact, they heard the Phillies offer and they matched it. The Baltimore Orioles matched the Phillies offer and didn't get it done. So instead of 5 for $150 with Kyle Schwarber, you get Pete Alonso 5 for $155. Younger, plays first base defensively. So good for the Orioles. Good for the Baltimore Orioles. But this is just one part. You have to go add pitching now. You have to. Absolutely have to go get pitching. And I think they will. I really do. If perfect world scenario, Framber Valdez, Mackenzie Gore. How awesome would that be? Oh my God. How good would the Orioles be if they go out and do that? Kyle Schwarber, also from the winter meetings, has signed. We heard the morning he ended up signing. He's chosen his team, and it's Team USA. Kyle Schwarber is running it back with Team USA in the World Baseball Classic. And everybody was like, oh, he chose his team. Haha, real funny. We're trying to see where he lands. Well, then just an hour or a couple hours later, Kyle Schwarber does sign back with the Philadelphia Phillies. 5 years, $150 million for Kyle Schwarber. Here's my thoughts. 5 years is a lot for a player that is already 32 years old and already a designated hitter. But that kind of plays into my point. He's already a designated hitter, essentially. You can throw him out in left field in an absolute emergency, but Kyle Schwarber is a DH, and he's been a DH. And he's only improved in his career. He's only improved in his career. So sure, 5 years is a lot, but you talk about a player that has improved throughout his career and is already a DH. And to that I say, if a fifth year is what it took to get this deal done, I have no problems with it. Kyle Schwarber is a star. He is a key piece in this Philadelphia Phillies lineup. He's versatile. He can do many different things. I know he's essentially just a DH, but the dude rakes. He obviously hits for pop, 50 homer potential, but he can run the bases well. He's smart. He's great in the locker room. He's great for a lineup. He does many different things other than just hit homers. I think he's a necessity for the Philadelphia Phillies lineup, and I think if it took a fifth year to get it done, I have no problems going to that fifth year to get him back in that lineup. So I say good move for the Phillies bringing him back. 5 years is a lot for a guy that's 32 years old. This deal takes him through 37 years old. But if that's what it took, I have no problem. He's only continued to improve in his career. So a necessity for the Phillies lineup. I love Kyle Schwarber. I love the baseball player that Kyle Schwarber is. And I think this is a really good move for the Philadelphia Phillies. A necessary move for the Philadelphia Phillies. One thing I've seen before we move on from Schwarber is that the Phillies are basically running it back with an aging roster and one that hasn't worked in the playoffs. And I don't exactly know if that's fair. I don't know if that's fair to say. The Phillies were a World Series favorite last year. I picked them to win the World Series. And then their ace, one of the best pitchers in all of baseball, comes up with a freak injury and one that you're worried about him as a human being. And luckily, he's going to be okay and be back. But look, you missed your ace heading into the playoffs. I don't look at the team and say, they just continually can't win. I'd say they didn't have Zach Wheeler in October last year. And I do think that was a big, big difference in their playoff run and their series against the Dodgers, which could have gone either way. Having Zach Wheeler would have been a huge difference maker. So I like the Phillies team a lot, and they are aging. Everyone, all of their key pieces, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Zach Wheeler, JT Realmuto. Like I get it. They are an aging core, but to me, it's still a core that has the potential to win. Kyle Schwarber, was a necessity for them if they want to win. So Kyle Schwarber had a few offers out there. One was matched by the O's. The winning offer, if you will, 5 for $150, was matched by the Orioles. The Reds for 5 years and $125 million, and the Pirates for 4 years, $125 million. So I look at this, and one, I would have loved to see Kyle Schwarber with the Cincinnati Reds. The hometown guy, the closest big league team to where he grew up is the Cincinnati Reds. I think he grew up a Reds fan. 5 years for $125 million. So they got to the 5-year mark, but with the lowest AAV. The Pirates were at 4 years with the same dollar amount, so a much higher AAV. So essentially, the Reds were the low offer here. The Reds were the low ball offer for Kyle Schwarber. And it just felt like a perfect fit. A perfect veteran piece to add to a young core that got to the playoffs last year. He's the hometown guy. And it just felt like the perfect fit. And you were the low ball offer on him? What are we doing? Why? You go add Terry Francona, a fantastic manager, to a young core with Elly De La Cruz and a dominant young pitching staff with good players everywhere you look, but that desperately needs that key piece to throw into the middle of the lineup. And Kyle Schwarber, the hometown guy, feels like that guy and a perfect fit, and he might hit 80 home runs in that stadium from the left side. And you're the low ball offer on him. And then Nick Kroll comes out and says that they aren't expected to pursue other expensive free agents this offseason, and their pursuit of Kyle Schwarber was just due to the belief that he would drive ticket sales. What are we doing? What are you doing? What about the fact that the hometown guy can hit 60 homers and take your fringe playoff young team to a legitimate threat? What about the thought of adding an expensive free agent to win ball games? They were just in on him because he thought he would drive ticket sales? Any of these expensive free agents would drive ticket sales. So now, because you were the low ball offer on the hometown guy, you're out on everyone else? What about this fan base that deserves to see a winning team? What about this team, this roster that deserves to win? It's embarrassing for an organization that is on the cusp of something and on the cusp and that is ready to win. It's embarrassing. And then for the GM to come out and say that publicly? Oh, man. Oh, man. That is just frustrating. Frustrating from the Cincinnati Reds. Hometown guy, perfect fit. You're the low ball offer. A lower offer, a worse offer than the Pittsburgh Pirates. You're the low ball offer there. Kudos to the Pirates for being involved here, by the way, with $31.5 million AAV that they had. Kudos to the Pirates. But shame on the Reds. Shame on the Cincinnati Reds for being the low ball offer on the perfect fit hometown guy and then coming out publicly and saying it was just a pursuit because they thought he would drive ticket sales. Shameful. Shameful. Anyway, another winter meeting move. Kyle Schwarber back to the Philadelphia Phillies. And over the last few days, another big move that has been made. Edwin Diaz to the Los Angeles Dodgers. I don't have a ton of thoughts here. Again, he ended up 3 years, $69 million. The Mets got close there. They were, I think, $66 million. So to me, that they didn't want to get to $69 million, and again, we're willing to move on from him. They added Devin Williams, and they decided we're not going to match. We are not going to match the what the Dodgers did, and we are willing to move on from Edwin Diaz. And reportedly, I saw these reports. Edwin Diaz reportedly was not told that they were bringing in Devin Williams, so that started to create a little bit of tension. And then they didn't match the offer with the Dodgers, so he ended up signing there. Edwin Diaz. Now the Dodgers get a much needed dominant back into the bullpen guy. Much needed because now you don't hopefully have to use starting pitchers out of the bullpen to win a World Series. You add a dominant guy in the back end. Here's my look. This is an elite closer signing with the Dodgers. Dodgers paid up for him. That is what it is. Here's my main thoughts about Edwin Diaz to the Dodgers. Edwin Diaz is one of the best closers in the game of baseball. But Edwin Diaz has the best closer entrance in the game of baseball. The trumpets, the horns, the crowd getting into it, it's the best closer entrance in the game of baseball. If the Los Angeles Dodgers, who have a literal mariachi band in the outfield, if the Dodgers don't find a way to incorporate the trumpets from the mariachi band and Edwin Diaz coming over as your closer with trumpets blaring out of the bullpen, they should be ashamed if they can't find a way to use the mariachi band as a part of his closer entrance. It has to happen. That's my main thoughts here. Edwin Diaz to the Dodgers. Okay, he's got the trumpets entrance. They have a mariachi band. It doesn't happen. And if it doesn't, or it has to happen. If it doesn't happen, every Dodgers fan, every fan of the game of baseball has been let down tremendously. It has to. It's the perfect fit. That's my thoughts with Edwin Diaz to the Dodgers. Mariachi band in the outfield, trumpets blaring. It's the perfect world scenario. It has to happen. We'll see if it does happen. Edwin Diaz to the back-to-back champion Los Angeles Dodgers, who their big void, their big hole in their team was back into the bullpen help. And now they have that. Now they got that with Edwin Diaz. So we'll see how that shakes out. What a few days. We were talking just a couple days ago about how the winter meetings are going to produce something. And in the 48 hours following that, Pete Alonso to the Mets, Kyle Schwarber to the Phillies, Edwin Diaz to the Dodgers, Kyle Tucker, the biggest free agent available, is still available and out there. Some updates on him, everything off the top of my mind that I can remember hearing. He went and toured the Blue Jays facility down in Dunedin in Florida. Blue Jays are a big player here. I have heard that the Orioles are in on Kyle Tucker as well. When it comes to the Los Angeles Dodgers, I know a lot of Dodgers fans think, we are getting Kyle Tucker. When it comes to the Dodgers, what I have heard is that they are not willing to go to the 6-7 year deal that Kyle Tucker is wanting, and I think should get, frankly. And they are more looking at a 3 or 4 year deal for him. I don't foresee that happening, so I don't think he's going to sign with the Dodgers unless they change that opinion. So he's still out there. Talks are still swirling when it comes to Kyle Tucker. He's a good fit everywhere. He's a stud. He's an MVP caliber player that plays great defense, has a great arm in the outfield, and will put up fantastic numbers offensively for you every year. But he's still out there. The biggest piece available is still out there, and so are the big pitching arms. Dylan Cease is the one name that is signed with the Toronto Blue Jays, but Framber Valdez, Ranger Suarez, Imai, King, Michael King, all still available, and there are talks that a lot of trade pieces, big-time trade pieces, are available. Again, the Padres are listening on anybody and everybody, seemingly, so Nick Pivetta, Mason Miller. The Marlins have mentioned that they are willing to trade some of their guys. Edward Cabrera for some offense. Mackenzie Gore with the Nationals is a trade piece that is out there. And though this pains me, Tarek Skubal is a trade piece that is out there and mentioned from the Detroit Tigers. That would just rip me to the core. But it's December 10th, and there is a lot to be done out there. The winter meetings have just seemingly kick-started some of this, and now the pieces will fall. It's not a coincidence that the day after Schwarber signs is when Pete Alonso's deal gets done. Scott Boras talked about it. He said, I do think now that Schwarber's done, this will kickstart the market for Pete Alonso. Clearly, the market was already there and set, and things were getting in place, and this helped that happen. There's so many so many things out there right now as I get ready to wrap up that are interesting to me. Now what do the Red Sox do? What do the Red Sox do? Pete Alonso was their guy. He was the perfect fit. They needed a first baseman. They needed a righty. They needed power. Pete Alonso was that guy. What do they do now? Now they're kind of backed into a corner in the Alex Bregman market. Where does Bregman go? There's just a lot. There's just a lot to be done and a lot going on and a lot of conversations that we're going to keep having. But we needed to have something today because these are some big-time moves that just got done. The offseason rolls on. This is a World Baseball Classic offseason. In March is the World Baseball Classic. We'll talk about that next week because Team USA is absolutely stacked as we sit here right now. Paul Skeen's the ace, but other than that, they need some pitching to sign. Matthew Boyd, Garrett Whitlock are some of those names, but offensively, this is a team that needs to win. We lost to Japan last World Baseball Classic. This team will be better. You got to win. You can't let Japan go back-to-back. It's going to be an awesome World Baseball Classic. I can't wait. We'll talk about the rosters and stuff next week. This week, this episode had to talk a lot about these moves that have been made. I appreciate you all for watching and listening. 2025, the year of Flippin' Bats, and I have a feeling 2026 might be as well. I love you guys. I love this community. I appreciate every single one of you. I love baseball. I love baseball, and I love talking to you guys about it every single week. Please check out our YouTube channel. Flippin' Bats Pod is our YouTube channel. Watch every episode there. Like the video and subscribe. All that really does help. But leave a comment. I love hopping in the YouTube comments with you guys and talking to you all about the episode and kind of continuing the conversation from the episode in the YouTube comments. So check that out. Wherever you listen to podcasts, we are as well. Apple, Spotify, wherever. And we are on all social media at Flippin' Bats Pod everywhere. I appreciate you all. The off-season has got a fire lit under it now. The winter meetings were a great kickstart, and here we go. A lot more to be done now, and I do believe the dominoes will fall. Pete Alonso, the big one, to the Baltimore Orioles. What do they do now? We shall see. What happens now around the game of baseball? We shall see. I love you guys. I love the Flippin' Bats community. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Until next time, my friends, find your bat and flip it. Peace.